Man, the 8 hour flight from Melbourne surely put strain on my body. I wish airplanes could travel faster than the speed of sound so that I don't have to deal with cramped spaces for long periods. Oh wait, there are actually planes that travel at those speeds. But is there a commercial one where I could board on for leisure purposes? Okay, now I'm pretty sure that most of us have been on an airplane before, right? The most exciting part is when the airplane takes off, as this usually releases some adrenaline into your bloodstream due to experiencing G-force. But the flight becomes pretty dull and boring once the flight starts its cruise. Now, since most of us are going to be studying abroad, are you guys looking forward for that tiring, claustrophobic, long-haul flight to the United States? If not, let me share with all of you a bit about commercial supersonic flight. Okay, ever since I was a little kid, I have always admired airplanes as the peak marvel of human engineering. And due to my deep interest and passion in airplanes, I have kept myself busy for the past few years with reading articles and watching videos about airplanes and updates on the latest aircraft as well as the history itself. And it's natural that I'm majoring in aerospace engineering myself. Okay, now I would like to share with all of you the 3 points that I'm going to cover in my speech today, which is a brief history of supersonic flight, the development of the supersonic commercial aircraft, and the reason why commercial supersonic airlines fail. Okay, now without further delay, let's board on our flight, shall we? Okay, supersonic aircraft began to flew on the second half of the 19th century. In 1947, the first manned supersonic flight took off. The American Bell X-1, piloted by Captain Charles Eager, went supersonic for the first time on its 50th test flight. It broke the local sound barrier, traveling at the speed of 1100 kilometers per hour, which is Mach 1. And the Bell X-1 aircraft was a joint research project by the US government military air force and Bell Aircraft. The project was to conceive supersonic travel for military purposes as the world was at war during the period. As war rages on, more supersonic aircrafts were born. Companies such as Lockheed Martin, Douglas Aircraft, Boeing soon began to compete to create the fastest jet the world has ever seen. Most supersonic aircraft, even up until today, consist of fighter jets used for strategic reconnaissance mission. But on 1968, the first commercial supersonic transporter took air. The Soviet Tupolev Tu-144 was the first supersonic transporter aircraft ever built, and it was used to deliver mail between Moscow and Alma-Ata. The first supersonic passenger-carrying commercial airplane was the Concorde, built jointly by aircraft manufacturers in Great Britain and France. Okay, now that we've reached the part where commercial supersonic airlines began to show up, let's move on to the next point, shall we? Okay, development for supersonic commercial aircraft started in the 1960s. And the 1960s was a booming age for human engineering. The technological race was at its peak during the Cold War as government of the United States of America, USSR, Britain and France, they dropped hundreds of millions of dollars into supersonic flight R&D. The first ever supersonic transporter, or shortly SST, was the Soviet Tupolev Tu-144. It began delivering mails and cargoes from 1975 up until 1983. However, it was grounded after only 102 commercial flights due to excessive failures and multiple crashes, as you can see from the slides. The second and more successful supersonic transporter was the Concorde. The Concorde was the first major cooperative venture between European countries to design and build an aircraft. On November of 1962, Britain and France signed a treaty to share costs and risks in producing an SST. The result was to be considered one of the greatest feats in human engineering. The Concorde was able to cruise at Mach 2, twice the speed of sound, making it the fastest commercial aircraft ever built. A journey from London to New York typically takes 7 hours on a normal airplane, but on the Concorde, it took only slightly above 3 hours. A journey that would take the Titanic 137 hours would be barely enough to watch a movie Titanic on the Concorde. However, once again, on October of 2003, the Concorde was grounded. We had commercial supersonic flight, but why do we never see them on the skies anymore? Well, to answer that question, let's move on to the next point. Commercial supersonic flight failed for two reasons. First, It was because it causes damages toward the environment. The Concorde was also known to cause serious environmental damage to the ozone layer. It was due to flying supersonic, requiring the engines of the aircraft to burn fuel twice as much than a normal passenger aircraft. And the Concorde cruises at a higher altitude than most commercial airplanes. And because of this, the scientist believes that the exhaust gas of the engine of the aircraft was more threatening to the ozone layer, since it was closer. Duh. Okay, and the second reason why commercial SST failed was because it was uneconomical. The Concorde was known to cause loud supersonic booms when cruising above Mach 1. A sonic boom is a super loud, thunderous noise created when an object breaks the sound barrier. The boom created by the aircraft limits the Concorde to fly only above ocean, meaning that the Concorde only had one route, a transatlantic one from London to New York and vice versa. And since the Concorde burns fuel twice as much than a normal passenger plane, and since it can only carry a maximum of 100 people per trip, the fuel economy for the aircraft was astronomically high. Okay, in other words, it was barely profitable. Okay, perhaps with advancement in today's technology, commercial supersonic flight will take over the skies once again. Who knows? Well, we've reached the end of our supersonic traveling. Let's land back to the ground, shall we? In short, we've once achieved commercial supersonic flight, but since it was not environmentally friendly at all, and since it was uneconomical, commercial supersonic flight was bound to fail. However, new aerospace companies like Boom Supersonic are doing much research to bring supersonic commercial aircraft back up in the air. And personally, I believe that commercial supersonic aircraft might soar above us one day. Thanks